now. We're going to go straight into the match as we did have that little delay. Let's get on with it.
It's going to be Warlock versus Paladin, and let's take a look at Jarla's list here. It's not cube lock, it's control lock, which makes it a much better matchup against Feno's Paladin.
Does he have any tech in there, do you know? Are they like a cube or a Umbra? Some of the decks have been playing like a little tiny bit of control.
No, Jarla's is more standard. There's no cube, there's no Umbra. Double Shroom Brewer, which again seems to have become the standard, but you know, twisting there, there's Siphon Souls. He's a much more classic, typical, completely control version of the deck.
Very dusky boys indeed, looking at this lineup. No surprise really, Hunter Ace is on his team of Nordavind.
Yeah, and actually Orange tweeted a little bit earlier about the total score of their practice group, and it was something like 60.
Yeah, they were all 5 and 2 at the time, I think. Sorry, they're all 5 and 2 or 6 and 2 at the time.
Well, he made the tweet after he found out that he wasn't making.
Oh, okay, so it's got even better since
it's something like 61-21. I don't think that's exactly what the figure was,
but that's good.
Between them, that is a fantastic score.
Yeah, it really is. An average score of 6-2, so round that up to 7, you get the point. Okay, so Feno here with double 4-drop, but not 4-drops he wants to play, because he wants to save those for the final push, those spell breakers. Yeah. And Jarla with Gul'dan in his hand.
Honestly,
not the worst thing against Paladin. Even though it seems like you might die before you get there, Gul'dan, if you do survive that far, you end up stabilizing completely.
I've got to say, having the Spellbreaker in the opening hand isn't too bad at all. The fact that it can silence a Lackey on turn 5 or Void Lord a little bit later on just makes it very nice to have to squeeze in that early damage. Not sure how I feel about having both of them and nothing big to play on turn 2. Though double Loot Hoarder, that does seem good.
Be interesting to see now. Jarla decided not to play the Librarian, so he has a better Defile coming forward. Now he's got the second Librarian. It'll be interesting to see if he plays the first one. It's a bit of a giveaway as to what is his hand, but yeah, let's see how he chooses to progress. Also doing a very sensible thing here, just taking his time to settle into this match. He knows what he wants to do on turn 1 with a Librarian against Paladin. He's played this matchup a lot of times before. Yeah. But just taking his time to settle into the match, get yourself in the right frame of mind. They've been sat in those seats for a few moments. Resource
management is very important as well. You know, Feno hero powering rather than playing another Loot Hoarder, just playing it nice and slowly. Stonehill Defender lines up very nicely against this board, but these aren't the taunt minions that Jarla would be looking for. Vulgar Homunculus, I guess it buffs the Spellstone one more time, but he does have both Librarians in his hand, so that's not really necessary.
Yeah, he's going to be able to buff those at will at some point, but at the moment it's going to be the usual start. Feno's got a very slow start, so that resource management you're talking about, far more important going forward, because you just can't really muster an attack. Muster for battle would be good. You can't really muster an attack, so make sure you don't burn any resources in a futile manner early on. If he had some 2-3s, I think it might be a totally different proposition.
Feno, as with most of the Paladins that we've seen over the course of this tournament, is running 1 copy of the Glass Knight. I believe, yeah, that is instead of a 2nd copy of Saronite Chain Gang. Otherwise, the list is pretty much the standard of what we've been used to. He's running the Direwolf as well, which isn't necessarily that common nowadays, as Jarla only just made that decision with the Stonehill Defender, going with Fen Creeper. That's not a nice pick, is it?
I don't know, it's not that bad. I mean, it just gets in the way of the Paladin, and all he wants to do is survive until his hand improves.
True.
Gul'dan in hand means he's not in a panic situation. He's got Godfrey in hand as well to just clear everything up.
Knife missed, meaning that Feno was not able to trade in his Silverhand Recruit and finish the Stonehill Defender.
I heard that in Feno's voice when you said knife missed. I'm going to see him on his stream complaining about it already. Jarla definitely not hurrying into anything in this match. No. Very well practiced player now. He's been around so long, he's done so well. Like I said, 2nd in last call points last year. And using all that experience now just to settle in. Like, I'm not even sure he's even thinking much in some of these turns. I think he's just literally just making sure that he doesn't play too quickly by chilling.
Drawing a Void Lord isn't necessarily ideal for Jarla. I don't believe he's running Skull of the Minoid. That would be very strange with the rest of the lineup he has, but I'm just going to double check. Nope, there's no Skull here, so that is 1 Possessed Lackey that's not going to do anything. Having said that, he doesn't have a Lackey in his hand, so maybe turn 9 is the earliest he's going to get the Void Lord down regardless.
Yeah, lucky changes quickly with Defile. When your opponent's playing Paladin, they usually end up either having a 1-1 on the board by choice, or you can make it so there's a 1-1 and you just go turn 7, Lackey Defile, and get it that way. If you can find your Lackey, of course. One thing that Feno's slow start has done, it's allowed Jarla to draw a lot of cards. So his draws will be good from here on in, even if he hasn't got quite the hand he would like right now.
Is this just Doomsayer?
I mean, the Doomsayer is not going to get better, most likely. So Jarla has to consider, does this Doomsayer ever do better than right now? How do I deal with it if my opponent plays Call to Arms, kill your Doomsayer? Do I have an answer to that? The answer is I don't. So I need something to proc the Divine Shield with, and he is actually going to go this way. And at least then he does have the proc the shield with my 2-1 if the Doomsayer is killed by Call to Arms, followed by a Fen Creeper to stodge things up for a little while.
Okay. Now, the question that I think Feno is asking himself, is it Valamir or Argent Commander? He didn't ask himself that question for long, though. And I like this a lot as well. The sooner you can get Valamir going in this deck, the better. That is now an everlasting weapon and many buffs for the future, unless Jarla silences it. And he is running 1 copy of Ironbeak Owl. That's it.
Interesting. So he does have the proc available because of how he played the last turn. It was, you know, if I lose my Librarian, so be it. But if you kill my Doomsayer, I'm likely to be able to kill the shield off for free. That's going to give him time to start establishing all these taunt minions, with Rin just acting mainly as a taunt for the foreseeable future. Could also be used to maybe use a seal or 2 and get back with Gul'dan if your hand doesn't improve, but his hand is fine right now.
Feno, how much damage can he squeeze in next turn? He's got the Spellbreaker, so if he wants, that's Valanir and the Glass Knight going face. That puts down Jarla to 18. That's not too bad. Equality with Consecration now, which will be very effective later on.
Yeah, that gives him options to use. I don't think I was that happy about the potential Spellbreaker option, really, for this turn, although it was something you've obviously got to think about. But now he has the Consecration Equality option. He's got so many choices for this turn. He can use the Consecration immediately, which it looks like he's going to be doing, or he can use the Spellbreaker.
Well, the advantage of using this Spellbreaker now is just to get that Valanir out again as soon as possible, get another minion buff. He's hoping not to see Ironbeak Owl. That would be, I guess, the worst card, actually, that Feno could see right now.
Yeah, and Feno does have this thing about whenever I have a weapon, my opponent has Swamp Ooze. Whenever I have, you know, Valanir, my opponent has the Silence. He's got to get that out of his mind and play the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the Ooze isn't the end of the world against Valanir. It's just like, oh, okay.
No, but in general, if he's playing Warlock, his skull always gets weaponed. He's had a pessimistic outlook. He manages to put that out of his mind and go with it this way.
Okay, silencing it and trading in the Glass Knight.
Right.
Afraid of those seals and eventually Zari the Devourer.
Yeah, well, one thing that it's not even, I mean, the Devourer is obviously the key, but Warlock stabilizes sometimes and can't kill you. So you get like a second chance to draw your Avenging Wrath. Whereas this way, you don't get those 4/4s and 5/5s that can sometimes give you the resources to occupy the board against a Paladin.
Yep.
And eat up valuable Equality and Avenging Wrath stuff that you really want to go to the face, not the minions. That's 1 Spellbreaker down for Jarla. That's how he'll be counting. He's got bigger issues to worry about for the time being, but it does mean that his Void Lords and his Gul'dan, if he can get them fairly safely into the second Spellbreaker, well, he'll be in a good spot. But no Owl is making this incredibly hard.
This is a very difficult matchup usually for the Paladin, but something has just gone right. Feno, despite not playing a Call to Arms yet, or really getting a good early game, his mid-game has been great. And Jarla, no Cabal Lackey, double Void Lord in hand. His mid-game is causing a problem.
It is, but he's nearly through the other side on that. If he knew there was another Spellbreaker, he would be very sad indeed. But
he has
where
to play
he's
around
at,
that.
he feels okay. I don't think he does. I think he dies if he plays around it. He dies if he doesn't, as well as it happens, but I don't think he can afford to. Look at the hand.
Let me rephrase. He has to play around that whenever possible.
He will not try and walk into it.
Of course, but it gets to the point where, as you said, if he plays around it, he just loses the game anyway. And at some point, he's going to have to change gears and not worry about the Spellbreaker too much. As we can see, it is there, though, and Jarla will play around it while he can.
Fino was trying to work out how to play around Godfrey here, so jamming Spellbreaker and going face and doing a chunk of damage looks really good, but then you have a 1 and a 3 and a 5 health minion on the board, and Godfrey just loved that setup.
A play I've seen a lot of recently from the Warlock side of this matchup is on turn 10, Voidlord Dark Pact the Voidlord immediately. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way of playing around silence. It's something that it's not the strength of the taunt minions, it's how many a lot of the time. So that is a thing that Fino will be looking at doing.
The only downside to that is it plays into the Equality Consecration more. So which is the lesser of two evils at the time, I suppose.
Yeah, it sure is. At the moment, I mean, there's bigger problems here for Jarla. He's got to clear this board up, but Fino has presented a nice target for a board here.
Yeah, this is just a nice clean defile, isn't it?
Yes.
Defile, Stonehill Defender to follow that up potentially.
Yeah, definitely. They'll just find another mid-range taunt. 3-mana taunt? There's plenty of those out there.
He doesn't have to survive for that much longer, but where he's going to struggle is yet sticking down the Void Lord.
Well, if he can play the Void Lord on a not particularly threatening board, even if he gets silenced, he can then play the second Void Lord and he's home free.
Yep, that's true.
So if he can get into the next turn and Fino can't present a really problematic threat, Jarla can then try and get the second silence out, and then he just goes Void Lord into GG with Gul'dan.
Oh, Wax Elemental
That's
played.
really tasty right now if he takes that, and he does.
Played with the Void Lord is going to just save Jarla from a lot of panicking about the Spellbreaker, because the Wax Elemental still absorbs 2 hits. One from a Valanir, one from whatever minion is on the board at the time.
Yeah, and there goes the Valanir, so another minion is hit, and it's the second Spellbreaker. That's not good for Fino.
It's the
he
worst
doesn't want to play this minion. Because if the Spellbreaker's played, the Void Lord just go completely nutso.
And now Fino's hand is looking really clunky. None of these cards really feel playable this turn. The Argent Commander just loses its Divine Shield to the Stonehill Defender. Loot Hoarder sits there as a 2-1 and does nothing. And as you said a moment ago, Spellbreaker has to be saved for a Void Lord or something much bigger.
Yeah, and these numbers are not the kind of numbers he's looking for. I think we see the Loot Hoarder played almost certainly this turn, which brings Fino down to the 6 drops, which means he probably plays an Argent Commander but doesn't like it. And then next turn he can Equality Consecration whatever board is presented to him.
Move quickly. Pose no threat.
Yeah, this is what I figured. He wants to get that card draw to try and declunkify this hand.
Declunkify.
Yeah, that's a technical
That
phrase.
may be my favorite phrase I've heard this weekend.
And he has going to successfully declunkify it. And this is what I was talking about a minute ago. So now, and you mentioned it too, having those on the board at the same time, Fino's going to play his second Spellbreaker, then the second Void Lord's going to be safe. I mean, you can Equality and Avenging Wrath to get rid of it and to do some face damage, but then all the little Void dudes will be in the way.
The problem is it's not enough face damage to actually cause any major impact as Jarla picks up his first Shroom Brewer. We've seen so much here in this tournament.
This is the situation you were talking about where he might not want to Dark Pact his own Void Lord because his board is... Equality Consecration is not that bad for him. He'll take a chunk of damage, Equality Avenging Wrath, Equality Consecration, but it's not catastrophic, and he has Gul'dan the turn after, so don't think we'll see that Dark Pact play here.
Now, honestly, I don't hate Dark Pacting the silenced Void Lord.
Sure,
just to kill it off so that it comes back with the Gul'dan as a Void Lord again.
Yeah.
Sunkeeper Tarim, one of the best answers for a Gul'dan board later on. At least the Void Lords from a Gul'dan board, not so much the Void Walkers themselves.
Fino has all the tools you need for this matchup, but I think they might be a little late, and he's going to have to order them extremely well to get enough out of them. He has played a lot of this matchup, a lot of it from the other side, but he has played a lot of this matchup.
Jarla still has 24 health, with a potential 20 healing in his hand, not even including Gul'dan. double Dark Pact, Shroom Brewer.
Yeah, obviously Gul'dan's 5 more plus the hero power.
Yeah, and it's just 3 every turn from that point onwards.
But Fino still has a hand that is competitive right now. It needs to be. I mean, he's got it to do, but he does have options and things he can do to start chewing through this board. And of course, Fino's first decision is, can I beat Gul'dan? And he'll play differently if he thinks he can't beat Gul'dan, in which case he'll start, going like this.
Got a weapon swing now as well. He's got to use it as quickly as possible. There we go.
Yeah, he's got the chain gang in hand, so that's always interesting when that happens.
He's thinking, Godfrey, Defile, what do I... Okay, end.
It's so hard playing against this Warlock deck because they have different ways of killing your boards, and he has played around Defile and Godfrey here.
Yeah, hitting in the 3-2 into a Voidwalker would have made the 3-1. Sorry, the 3-3 or 3-2. Godfrey would have been a board clear.
Yeah, I say that, but he'll find a way if he wants one, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, just trading in
everything
his board into...
Yeah.
Maybe that's not even worth it.
It's not, but it's there. Well, I say it's not. I mean, you end up with a 4-4 versus nothing with Gul'dan in hand.
I mean, Jarla could just trade everything into Sunky Patarum and play Gul'dan this turn. That seems perfectly viable to me.
If it killed the Tarim, I think that would be good. If it doesn't, it's making it very complicated, I think.
Both silences are gone, so it's just weak to a quality consecration. However, he's almost guaranteed, I think, at least one Void Lord, if not both.
This to me suggests he's going with the Godfrey route, and then he's going to play Gul'dan the turn after.
Oh, Dark Pact Godfrey? Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't need the extra Void Lords, so he might as well get the 8 health while it's there. This buys him so much time that now the Gul'dan is nice and pure. It's going to come down onto a board that isn't menacing, particularly no matter what Fino does. Even if he puts down a huge, which he does, Argent Commander.
Is that the wrong one? Do you think he'd prefer the Saronite here?
I think so, yeah. Because then you're guaranteed, you don't have to mess around with owls and stuff. You just smash people.
This is so nice, though, with the Direwolf buff as well. Knife Juggler coming in. Suddenly Jarla's at 19, and he has to do something.
Yeah, he gains 5 armor and puts a bunch of 3/9s down is the usual solution here.
But now Fino has a board. He can play a quality Consecration or a quality Avenging Wrath, depending on the situation. 2 Void Lords there is a slight problem. Oh. Okay, so a quality...
Right.
Trade into both Void Lords, second equality, and then Consecration is a full board clear, and the Argent Commander and a Knife Juggler can go face as well. That's gotta be worth looking at.
Yeah, he's obviously got that option. And even the 1/3s are pretty good against Paladin. This is one of the issues that Fino has. You know, they will survive for half a turn or 1 turn, whichever way you'd like to phrase that.
Well, if he plays equality twice this turn, it just clears everything. Equality, trade away the Void Lords, equality again, Consecration.
Okay.
And then he can just push the Commander face. There's no more Void Lords coming out. That's it, they're all gone. See if the knife is gonna... No, it's not gonna do it. It's worth a try.
How quickly. Fino always does it. He checks to, like, spoiler mode.
There's not much time, though. If he's going to make that play... Okay. Oh! Almost. There we go. Equality Consecration. Knife Juggler and Argent Commander going face. Now Jarla has to panic a little bit.
Yeah, he does, for sure. And Valanir getting its work done. I was saying to Darok that Valanir is in the top 3 cards to keep as Paladin against Warlock. Like I said, I suspect it's even higher than 3rd, but I'm not going to swear to it. So sticking to top 3. And you're seeing why. It's just presenting problem after problem. It's like infinite blessing of kings. It'd have been very different if there's been an owl. He just loses on the spot, not on the spot. But this, yeah.
Oh, owl would have been great, but Jarla's only running 1 silence in his deck. Many decks are running 2 silences.
Jarla is still, though, finding a way not only to present a board, but to stabilize-ish. Is this close to lethal? Yes, of course it is, but both equality's gone.
If it wasn't for the Gen pickup, I would have suggested Valinor goes in, equip True Silver Champion, and then Saronite. Maybe that's still the play here and hope to win the 50-50. Because even if he does end up with Gen, he can just play that instead.
The trouble is, if he delays it, you quite often end up with another 50-50 next turn, and you've just wasted the turn, and still you end up having to do it anyway.
It's not like he's wasting damage. He's almost always going to have a weapon now, as long as the owl doesn't suddenly.
And the Gen could be a massive threat. It's not because there's Siphon Soul in hand, but you know, like you say, the weapon comes back, he gets another go at it. It's tempting. It's very tempting. And Fino is in a hurry now with Gul'dan gaining 3 health every single turn, and Beetle ready to do its thing. He doesn't know if there's a cube ready for that Beetle, maybe. At least he does, he's a control Warlock. He does know.
Missed. Fino not looking too happy about it either. Trying not to give away the information. He
Yeah, he lost the juggle earlier as well, so that's a cumulative effect of being worn down by those misses.
But he is sat opposite his opponent. It's important he doesn't give away that there's a Saronite in his hand, which he may just have done.
Yeah, if Jarla's looking, but Jarla is very focused on the game. I feel that Jarla is a little like Crane in some ways, in that he doesn't let...
Careful now.
Yeah, sorry, Jarla. He doesn't want to let the extraneous stuff bother him. He just wants to play the best Hearthstone he can play and get on with doing that. And the best Hearthstone he can play is really, really damn good.
Yeah, as we can see, Fino now on the back foot one more time, despite that incredible turn with the double equality. Maybe this is Consecration, Avenging Wrath, and go this turn. Dealing, what, that's 9 damage to the face? Consecration first, that's 2, and the Avenging Wrath deals 7. Obviously, the Plated Beetle gets some of that health back, but then he can swing in the weapon.
Let me think.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to do it soon. You're dead on board at the moment. You don't know it. Sorry, so you're not dead on board, but you're dead to Jarla's hand at the moment.
Jarla should be pretty much out of big threats. Rin was silenced. All Void Lords and Gul'dan.
I mean, 2 pings, double Hellfire is lethal over 2 turns.
Yes.
So Fino knows that probably 1 Hellfire would be a card you'd expect them to have. He knows he's close. I mean, he knows he's dead to 4 pings at the very best, so he's in a bit of a hurry.
Even if this Avenging Wrath goes face... Oh, not going to play Consecration. Okay, well, if the Beetle lives, then this is the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as it should when faced with 8 chances to take it down, the Beetle doesn't live. But Fino's health total is just not going down quickly enough. Sorry, Jarla's health total is not going down quickly enough for Fino here.
I don't believe Fino has any healing left in his deck. Maybe a second True Silver.
Which wouldn't be enough. He needs to gain more than 2 or he's dead next turn.
You're right.
And Jarla knows this. He just goes, okay, I'll gain the 8 so that any craziness isn't enough.
He gets it, but...
For justice.
And this is going to be a...
Yeah, he's thinking of equipping the True Silver to get the 2 health immediately.
I think he should.
I mean, yeah, we can see it doesn't matter, but yeah, he should for sure, I think.
Again, he's just not going to run out of weapon damage at any point, so there's no reason not to. There's the big Saronite that could have appeared the previous turn, if not for Gen stealing the buff away. Fino's looking like he's in an okay spot, except for the incredibly vital Pact.
He's dead.
Sorry. Dark Pact's getting in my head.
Wow.
But yeah, he's dead.
He's going to get a lot of Valeniers, though.
Yeah, it's just a shame there's nothing in the hand for it to buff.
Important win for Jarla. If he loses that one, his deck hasn't done what it's supposed to do. He does get it done, so it does do what it's supposed to do.
It got close, though. That double equality, the equality Consecration turn was very key for Fino. He pushed so much damage in there and didn't quite make it all the way as Jarla takes the first win on the board. Fino left with Druid and with Mage.
Yeah, well, the Mage is going to have to do overtime here, and it's going to be a chance to beat the Warlock, but the way Jarla's ordered it means he gets the Priest into the Mage if he goes that way, and his Rogue then doesn't have to face the Mage. And winning Game 1 in Last Hero Standing, winning Game 1 in anything is important, but in Last Hero it's particularly important because you set up that chain of counter-queuing. And, you know, if the games were always 100% chances, it'd be a 3-2 every single time with the counter queues.
Should go without saying here, Fino's Mage is a face or aggro mage. It's running a double Life Drinker and double Arcane Keysmith. I'm trying to work out what he's cut very quickly, but...
A quick glance. It's usually difficult to work out in a glance. Let's have a look anyway. Nope.
He's actually gone with a Spiteful Druid, regardless, first.
Okay.
Equally strong against the controller. I think it's safe to say Jarla got the matchup that he needed.
In that case, if you think it's equally strong, which is interesting to me, but he's saving the Mage because it's so much better against the Rogue.
The Mage is probably slightly stronger. But then Shroom Brewer does make a difference. Shroom Brewer, there's a lot of healing in this control lock compared to a regular cube lock. It's difficult to call.
It does make Jarla's counter queue a bit more awkward with Priest and Rogue. You have to queue the Rogue.
But I just think Spiteful Druid is capable of grinding this deck down and having it run out of
It can get it done for sure.
Let me see if there's anything...
And Fino, I mean, not only has he gone 8-1 in this tournament to get to this spot, but he must be extremely comfortable playing Spiteful Druid because it's not a deck that I would associate with Fino wanting to play.
Really?
I think the top pros try to avoid Spiteful decks if possible because they don't get as much option to exert their skill into the game because it is a little bit more of a draw what you can do. So it's a tool that you need in your lineup is how he sees it.
It's seen a lot of success in this tournament. I think it is safe to say that. More so than I was expecting, as Kalaseth comes down on turn 2, making life a little bit easier for Fino.
Yeah, and the game has frozen, but it's still going. We do have reconnect mode, obviously, anyway now if things do go wrong, so don't panic too much. But
given by
Fino is getting an admin now.
Yeah.
This is, if you're ever playing a Hearthstone tournament and anything weird happens at all, get the admin while the thing is happening.
Immediately.
So that you can sort it out afterwards. As the admin knows things, they can make rulings that help you because it's not your equipment.
Yeah. I expect to see Jarla wait out this turn. There's no reason to make it real fast and then pass up anyways. And
yeah, it was literally just it started stuttering. I think Fino wanted the admin to be aware of, look, I am not pulling a move if this goes funny next turn. He's absolutely showing his experience there. Yeah, and he's checking that the game is actually functioning like it should. You can learn a lot from that sort of thing. It seems like a trivial point, but the mechanics of how to do things in a tournament can save you a situation happening.
Tournament etiquette is so important, generally. Big question then. Greedy to Sprite or not to Sprite? How important is that ramp for next turn?
I mean, not at all important.
He'd go into he'd go into Fungal Mancer,
right.
which...
Yeah, and it's doing it again, so, you know, hopefully it all stays together.
Yeah, it looks like I can... The admin that was just on screen a second ago, I can now see in the corner of my eye talking to production, so looking forward to seeing, hopefully, everything in working order again very soon. In the meantime, Fino, Crypt Lord, Firefly, and Flame Elemental rewarded for throwing away the Greedy Sprite. Now, next turn, Fungal Mancer is looking good. Yeah,
setting it up nicely, but Jarla's hand... It's not necessarily the individual cards are such a great draw, but because of the tapping and because he's not really been put under huge amounts of pressure, he should be able to deal with things for a long time. Like you say now, it's about whether the Druid can grind things down. And for that to work, he's either going to need a fairly early UI or a very early Spiteful, because that's what it takes.
Is it?
Yeah, Spiteful Fungal Manta.
Not Fungal Mancer Druid?
No. That would be really silly. Why would you call it that? Yeah, okay, that would make sense. Jarla, still quite happy to take additional damage in return for cards. This is the Warlock's ongoing internal struggle as to how many cards it should draw in every matchup ever made.
This turn, however, not a struggle at all. The buff he gets from this Fungal Mancer, buffing up the taunts as well to make it very difficult for Jarla to set up a Defile turn. Lord Godfrey still a turn or two away.
Yeah, so
how does Jarla
go
do
about this?
He can play Lackey, Coin, Dark Pact. Fino is running 2 Spellbreakers, though, so at no point is Void Lord entirely safe.
I think this sets up, though, if the Spellbreaker comes down, then you just have a 3/9 chilling on the board, which is going to enable you to set up some good things to happen. You get one turn closer to Godfrey, and you should get to Godfrey because of your Siphon Soul in the Spellbreaker scenario.
The rage. It claims me.
Fino now hasn't got that silence, so Jarla will be very relieved, and Fino's got to find a way through this. And it's not easy, is it?
There's no way through it this turn. He can get through 2 of the Void Walkers, but not the 3rd. Next turn, Fino's looking good. Lich King or Grand Archivist. Depending on, I guess, what his board state is looking like next turn. Both of these are looking okay.
But he's got to be so careful of Godfrey if this board state hasn't been cleaned up by Godfrey. And you can only do it once, and you need to do it about 3 times against Spiteful Druid. So Jarla, I expect to be pretty greedy with his Godfrey, although having the Twisting Nether as well may make it a bit easier for him.
I can't help but wonder if this is just a Siphon Soul on the 3/11 Crypt Lord coming up this turn.
I mean, he has a chance to do another Lackey play.
Okay. Yeah, that's good too. That's
Yeah, and
good too.
just looks pretty tidy. Now you're set for when you draw Gul'dan, which makes your game plan
Fino's
even
not
more
happy
about survival.
This. Fino is not happy about how this game has...
Yeah, I recognise the Fino smirk.
You watch Fino stream a lot?
Yes. One of my favourite streams, not even like me marinoing. Very educational stream with a little bit of passion thrown in. Let's call it.
Okay. So it is going to be the Archivist after all. Jarla has more minions on the board than Fino does, meaning that the chance of this ultimate infestation hitting a good target is high, but let's find out.
Spiteful Summoner picked up from that draw. Both Spiteful Summoners, but of course there's only one UI left. He didn't draw the second UI, which is good, of course. But it's starting to look like Jarla is getting the upper hand, even with that refill. He's protected his Godfrey and his Twisting Nether, and he still has Gul'dan in hand, or in deck.
He'll get to it eventually, but eventually isn't looking like it's good enough right now. Let's see, how can Jarla best deal with this? He's still got that Siphon Soul in hand. But then what's he hitting with it? Is he hitting the 5/8 or the Crypt Lord? Probably the 5/8. But then again...
I think, yeah, you leave the Archivist up and see how your life turns out.
He can force the second Ultimate Infestation if it's still in the deck, meaning that Spiteful Summoner never gets played. Although Spiteful Summoner can be played this turn.
Right. But when that's over with, then that's basically, you know, one summoner instead of two. It's like killing a Spiteful Summoner for free if you can survive the onslaught, which you can because you've got Godfrey and Twisting Nether. And after you've got rid of that 12-12, then you can go into normal Warlock defense mode and try and just outvalue. Fino's key card here will be Malfurion, which going forward will give him a bit of extra value. Assuming the game state stays roughly equal, obviously there's times when it just becomes pointless. Interesting to see a lot of the players, the Finland crew, bringing the Pixie for this deck. So that when you play Malfurion, you can do all that extra damage.
Mm-hmm.
Very greedy, but makes a lot of sense. You know, hoping to get this MC Tech on something, but then you look at it again, it's like, does it achieve it?
No, exactly. I'm just staring at Fino's hand. Hearthstone hands get difficult when they get this big and there are so many decisions. The Lich King is a legitimate option this turn. Fino is about to burn quite a few cards, it's also worth saying. Don't think he can prevent Ultimate Infestation, so maybe he considers playing Spiteful Summoner because now is the last chance he can. But no, the game stuttered, he's shaking his head. I don't know if he's got time to make this turn.
Yeah, don't think he has.
Oh dear.
Let's see what happens here with if there's any ruling on that play, but... See what happens with the infestation.
Oh,
First,
no.
we'll continue to cast the match as if it's a full match, and you can all see for yourselves the potential problems here, and we'll let you know of any ruling that does occur.
This is heartbreaking to see,
not
but...
anything to do with what we can control. What we can control is bringing you the match.
Technology, that's all I can say. It's technology, and when you rely on technology, as we all do every day, sometimes it goes wrong. And hopefully we'll give you some sort of conclusion about that in a moment. But in the meantime, Fino's still not looking like he's in a terrible spot.
I mean, now he's out of UIs, though, so his two Spitefuls are bad. His Fledglings are probably bad unless he can find a way to make them do stuff. He has not much else apart from the Lich King that really packs a punch, and Jarla has a handful of removal cards. Now, some of those removal cards are not ideal, like the Spellstones. Yeah, they're not buffed, at least one of them isn't. But he should be in a good spot.
Okay, Lord Godfrey, not quite going to clear up oh no, it is going to clear up everything. The Crypt Lord just about dies, and Fino now looks to be in dire straits. Two big Spellstones in Jarla's hand.
Yep, and I mean, he doesn't have, at the moment, Gul'dan. If he gets Gul'dan, the game is all but over, but he hasn't got it. And Fino does have a lot of cheap, efficient minions, so... The question for Fino here is how many of those cheap, efficient minions do I dump onto the board at one time? He can expect another board clear, but if he can get that second board clear out of Jarla's hand, maybe his third reload will be good enough. So Fino decides to go with 4 minions here and present quite a lot of damage and threats. Stonehill Defender is just another way of Jarla buying time. His health total is an interesting one. Again, it's that dilemma for the Warlock. How much do I want to tap? I need Gul'dan to win. Don't want to tap too much against Spiteful. Even with a full hand like this, it's a bit naughty.
This is some surprisingly apt refill from Fino, actually. His board is defile-proof for the time being. Unfortunately, the Vicious Fledgling can be dealt with.
Yeah, Fino has played, I mean, even though his board has been cleared by Godfrey's in this game, he has played around Defile and Godfrey as well as you can possibly manage, I think. Because eventually it just becomes inevitable that they will get you. The more minions you play, the more ridiculous the trades go in favour of Godfrey.
Jarla's looking through his options.
Jarla knows this isn't the real reload, right? This is the one that Fino wants him to kill. The real reload is the stuff in hand, at least how Jarla sees it. As it happens, it's Fino split his resources into about 50-50 split. But where Jarla sat, he didn't want to waste too much if he could help it on this load because he thinks that the next one's going to be worse. But he found a way to do it, keep the Twisting Nether, he's absolutely fine.
There's Druid of the Claw. Fino runs that instead of Leroy Jenkins, but he's just going to go ahead and drop the Lich King now. Still a Siphon Soul in Jarla's hand that he's been holding on to for a really long time. 2 Spell Stones, which would also do the job without even needing the Siphon Soul. That's, I think which Death Knight card Fino gets from this Lich King is very important.
Yeah, if he can get
Rin?
any sort of buff would have been
Sorry,
handy.
a Death Grip into Rin. I skipped a step.
Yeah, I was just decided you'd gone crazy
just
and
get
I was
Rin
going
from
to
the
ignore
Lich King.
you.
No, Death Grip into Rin to steal it from Jarla.
Right.
Feels as though it could have been an out.
Yeah, Death Grip is a weird card because you tend to usually forget about it, and then when it's good, it's really good. So double Nether now. Jarla has started to run out of resources incredibly because he just hasn't pulled Gul'dan. When you don't get your Gul'dan, and he didn't get it in his last match when we cast in the 9th round either, until the 30th card. Yeah, the deck does look a lot worse suddenly.
Also, Druid of the Claw looks a lot worse as a 4/4 than as a 5/5, which is what the it would have appeared to be.
Right.
The Kalaseth a moment ago.
Because the wording on the card that transforms, as we discussed earlier. And Fino's finding ways to get bits of damage through this hero power, obviously helping him as well.
So does he want more damage to the face this turn, or does he want the more efficient trades? Because, okay, that works too. I was going to say, does he hero power and trade in the Crypt Lord and go face with the 4/4, or put the 4/4 into the minion and go face with the 5 damage? But nope, let's go face with everything. That seems good to me, Fino.
Yep, quite a lot of damage coming through there, and Jarla still got the double Spellstone, but obviously Twisting Nether here keeps him safe. Really want that owl that's just doing nothing right now. Annoying, that owl. Doesn't seem to turn up when you want it.
No, last game. Well, I mean, Jarla's still doing well enough without it. It's safe to say for the time being. Fino going to run out of cards very, very soon. And that does show one of the faults of Grand Archivist, the fact that it forced out the second Spiteful Summoner.
I'm still not a fan of that card.
Sorry,
I still feel like it's... I haven't
option.
checked the stats, so I'm probably incredibly wrong, but I feel like it's one of the worst cards in the deck.
It's not quite as good as it used to be back in Spiteful Priest, is it? Where it would mind control something a lot of the time.
Yeah, a lot of the time you don't want to play it because things like this happen to you. And your Spitefuls become bad. So it's a card I feel that one day in this particular deck, if this deck survives the nerfs, which I think it will, I think we may end up seeing the Archivist either dropped or turned into something else. In Spiteful Paladin, and I just realised that the whole of chat just went, what's a Spiteful Paladin? Actually, the Archivist is amazing because you use your Spiteful for value, and then the Archivist is just more value, and all of your cards always go to the opponent, or they're call to arms.
Yep.
or their lay on hands. So everything is a positive every time.
Okay, now it's interesting because Jarla may just have to play Rin this to Twisting Nether. I was going to say Rin and then the Spellbreaker does some serious work. Now it's just giving Fino another chance to refill if he has the resources to, which in this case he does.
He does, but this is like his third or fourth refill, and he is starting to run out of stuff. He's presenting a board that is now really good for Fungal Mancer.
Yep.
So he's managing to save another set of stuff for that as well.
Still no Gul'dan from Jarla. Gul'dan feels as though it would just end the game to me right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that way for a long time, and Jarla's doing well not to let it fluster him. Like I say, he's just had a game where it was his 30th card. And if he'd been in the top 25, he'd have won.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's having another one where it's in that same sort of bottom third nightmare scenario, and he's just needed it for so long.
Yeah, did that just say 3 cards left? 2 cards left for Fino. I think it's a 3 left for Jarla.
So Jarla has just literally got to survive until he gets Gul'dan, but even if he doesn't get Gul'dan, just kill all Fino's stuff. And he does have this Twisting Nether. Now, the question he needs to ask himself is, why did Fino do what he does? Well, the answer is not that difficult. It's the fungal dude. I think Jarla will know this is the setup for that. So he won't want to nether this board because he knows there's another Fungal Mancer board coming.
Yep. Second Shroom Brewer. Still not Gul'dan, but still, that's... If you wanted to play them both this turn, that's back up to 29 health.
Yeah, and that's where Fino's also starting to struggle. And Jarla may just go with, you know what, next turn, if I can nether next turn, I will draw Gul'dan and then I'll win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Fino has done a sterling job of trying to get chunks of armor, but it's just not enough. And yeah, Jarla's just saying, I don't want to use my Twisting Nether. I'm going to Twisting Nether when I use your final minions, and then you just lose. And this is where Malfurion's hero power is getting free reign. It's going to be pretty good for Jarla for a couple of turns. Okay. Well, Jarla currently only has the 1 Shroom Brewer, but he's okay at taking this board on at the moment.
Eleven health remaining for Jarla, but Gul'dan has to be one of the next couple draws. When that comes down, that's Void Lords, that's Void Walkers.
Yeah, I mean, and it's 5 armor and a hero power that just gets you back to 30 pretty rapidly. It won't because of fatigue, but yeah, while you're sitting behind those things, it will just win him the game, even through this double Spellbreaker. Because the 1/3s would do enough work.
My turn is not light and rot.
2 cards left, 50-50 to get it. This is bottom card, 2 games out of 3, because we played a Paladin match here.
It was in the previous series.
Yeah, in round 9, it was his last card against Scruffy.
It's crazy.
And now it's his last card again, and that was streamed as well. So twice in 3 games, because he did win game 1 of this series, of course, with it not being his 30th card.
Did he win the game against
No.
his last card? Well, it looks like he might still win this one.
And by not winning that means he's ended up having to play Fino, which is not who you want to play. Like I say, you don't want to play many of the people in this top 16, but Fino may be the one you really don't want to play the most. Or if you're optimistic, you dump him out of the points and then you go and claim the points that Fino would have got for second place as well and go a long way clear. Points for the teams are crucial too, as we work out how Jarla's going to survive one more turn. He feels that he's okay with the Twisting Nether, and now he knows that the Twisting Nether, he's managed to preserve that so well all the way through this game. That's been in his hand for the longest time. There's definitely 2 or 3 turns I would consider casting it, but he's challenged the board with minions rather than the Twisting Nether, and now with Fino only having 4 minions left with which to try and win this game, and Jarla's last card being Gul'dan, this Twisting Nether is just the safety net he needs to make sure nothing bad will happen.
Yeah, it's now looking impossible for Fino to develop any sort of a board, any sort of long-term damage, as Gul'dan finally gets drawn. Last card in the deck.
Again.
And played immediately. Get past these taunts, says Jarla.
And it's going to be 2-0 to Jarla. Fino has... Well, he's got 2 MC techs left. Is there any craziness that can happen here?
No.
Okay. Could you be a bit more sure, please, Dan? You're sitting on the fence way too often recently.
There is no way that Fino gets through this. There's still the Twisting Nether with the hero power every single turn. He got the best steal. I think I even heard a crowd reaction, but it just doesn't matter. Almost ready with the concede, but there's the Twisting Nether. There's the concede. Jarla takes what ended up being a very, very long game against Fino with the control, like leaving Fino with only his aggro mage. Fino has a big uphill climb to get back into this series. Lorinda, what a game.
Yeah, that was an incredible game again, but again showing how the order of your deck does matter sometimes with Malfurion, especially Fino, with the Archivist just blowing those 2 UIs away.
That was the big problem, I think.
Right?
That was the main part of Fino's plan that went wrong. It was the fact that the Archivist survived and burned, what, 3 cards?
I think one of them must have been Druid of the Claw, because we never saw that.
We did see that.
Oh, did we see it early on? Okay, so... But whatever it burned is 3 cards Fino needed at the end there, which... It's hard to say how they would have helped, but that was the last Twisting Nether. Yeah. But Jarla, for all that, his Gul'dan was the 30th card, right at the bottom of his deck. Obviously, that's how 30 works. And still managed to get that job done. Gets to 2-0 and looking like he has a great chance of reaching this top 8. Do a quick rundown of the top 16. You good with that?
Yeah, of course.
Just the matchups in bracket order. So
one more
first up,
time, it's going to be the game after this one. When this series ends, assuming it doesn't go on for so long, that series isn't over as well. It's Maverick versus Thomas. What do you think of that game?
That's an incredibly interesting game. Maverick is pretty much the old school sort of... He was one of the guys that we all said was going to be the next big thing, and with respect to Maverick, who is still a very powerful and very popular player, he hasn't done big things.
Well, while we talk about this, we can actually take a look at the bracket just for a few moments while we wait for this series to continue. There you go, Maverick and Thomas.
Now, Thomas is one of those guys who's currently the next big thing. He won, or did extremely well at, I think he won, but you will know better than me maybe, Game Goon a while ago, where he went through players like Thais and Kalento and Jackie Chan and put in a fantastic
Chan won
run.
the most recent game.
So maybe Thomas lost in the final or the semis in that, one in the groups possibly. Anyway, he had a fantastic run there. I believe it was that event. Maybe I'm getting things muddled. It's late and I'm old and things. Thomas also had a very good run indeed, reaching the finals of WESG, and anyone who's been anywhere near that tournament knows if you reach China in that event, you've played a lot of Hearthstone and you've beaten a lot of players along the way. So Maverick Thomas, for me, is interesting. It's a battle of 2 people you all should have heard of. I think most people will have heard of Maverick Thomas. Keep an eye on that guy. He is good at Hearthstone.
Dib and Knights will be coming up after that. And Dib, I believe, is from South Africa?
Yeah, he's a caster from South Africa and made the trip over here to play this. And we haven't said much about him, but he's been up there all the way. He's gone through the bracket well. Knights, I don't know anything about him.
No, nor do I.
So it'd be interesting to see how that one works out.
Dib versus Knights, actually, it's going to be an interesting game for that. I don't know that much about Dib. Again, I know he's a caster. I know he's from South Africa. That's pretty much it. Savat versus Dogmeat. 2 more players that I'm not that well
Dogmeat I know very, very little about.
Savat is one of those names that sort of rings more bells.
So at the start of the year, I did a team of unsigned players who I felt you should follow.
Okay.
One of those players was Race. If you haven't heard of him now, then you should have.
Okay, Prophet Lorinda. What about Savat then?
Savat was another one on that list. Savat is another player on that list of 3. He had an extended run in WSG, and then he didn't have a particularly great start to the season. He got #1 legend in the middle of the month at some point, but finished sort of 28 or something. But he's playing more and more LAN events, and he's also very small.
Like me.
He's smaller than you.
Wow, that is quite an achievement. And look, the camera is back on us again, which I believe is probably an indication that we are almost ready to get back into the game.
So very quickly going through the bottom half, I won't talk quite as much about the bottom half.
Let's fast forward, speed through.
It's KZ versus Blazers. It's going to be Vins, obviously from France, versus Pillow. Scruffy, who we saw earlier, defeating Jarla, taking on Alives. I can't read Alives. And Zim versus Chinoy's. Chinoy's obviously one of the Dusky boys who have had such great success in terms of win rate at this tournament.
As we see Fino one more time getting ready to continue. The score is currently 2-0 to Jarla, and it is up to Fino to make a comeback with his aggro mage. It's possible.
It is possible. I think Mage personally is favoured against the Warlock. I know that it's not as favoured as some people think it is because the Warlock has quite a few good options, but sometimes it just gets Kirin Tor counterspelled out of the game. Sometimes it's just turn 2, Archaeologist turn 3, Kirin Tor, yeah, you lose. But then he's still got to get through the Priest and the Rogue. And how is that Mage going to get it done against Priest?
Priest is the hard one, isn't it? Priest is very, very tricky. It is possible that Mana Worm sticks on turn 1.
Okay.
Sorcerer's Apprentice sticks with a Frostbolt to get rid of the Cleric or Pyromancer on turn 2. And then Dustbreaker is not drawn on turn 4. That is...
Okay,
let's just get into the game and hopefully see that happen. Never mind. This is not actually the
happening.
I was just thinking, there's something not quite right. Did we miss a game here? No, we didn't.
So the players have test games when they're setting stuff up, which means just to check for that sort of issue. So going back to the bumbling, the talking that I'm sure you're loving, while we wait for this game 3 to start. Joking aside, so you're going through good curve for the Mage. Somehow the Priest doesn't draw the Dustbreaker or an Activator, one or the other. Doesn't draw Divine Hymn, although Divine Hymn is not that useful, I guess, if Mana Worm's slapping you about and you've not got rid of it.
It can be later on, right? Like when the Mage
that's how you stabilise, of course.
When the Mage is at the point where it's like just fireballs and pyro blasts.
Turn 2 Divine Hymn is not the way you get out of trouble.
No.
Because it just doesn't impact the later game.
Sometimes Divine Hymn early with a Pyromancer to clear a board and heal at the same time.
And that's the thing, a Pyromancer acts as like a backup Dustbreaker. It's not as good.
Right.
And then if the Mage gets the right sequence with Kirin Tor, that's another thing that can go well.
I think we should start our own practice group, Brenda, and I think we should call it the Pyro Boys.
That sounds terrifying. Why?
The backup Dusky Boys.
Oh, I see. I don't think they'd have us, even as backup.
No, they wouldn't.
Like, is there any sort of pun you've got for like 17th in line to be in the Dusky Boys, behind 16 other teams of 9?
Ooh, that's cutting a bit close to the wire there on tiebreakers.
Wow. Dan with the barbs. Soto drops bars. Dan just drops barbs. And I don't know, they might accept a rank 3 legend. Can I come along?
Oh, Orange asked for my opinion on Paladin decks on Twitter the other day.
What was he like after a laugh? He asked you in public, which means he wants to see the public response. If he asks you in private, then sure, he wants to know the response he keeps to himself.
Okay, Neil.
It just sounds like a trap waiting to happen.
Giving me a nice big compliment out there, only to whip the rug out from underneath.
I can't just be nice to you all the time. People will think I'm ill.
Right, we are ready, finally, for game number 3. Let's jump right in. It's going to be the Control Lock versus, of course, the only remaining deck for Fino. It is Aggro Mage, and he gets the Archaeologist. There's no Mana Worm there, though.
No Mana Worm, but against Warlock, you don't need a particularly amazing start. You just need your start not to suck. And Archaeologist is so important to get that secret going. Jarla has got the Lackey Pact. And now a Beetle, so the healing is up there. Hellfire is surprisingly useful in this matchup. Yeah, you take the 3 and you don't want to, but it can clear basically every minion the Mage can throw at you. So sometimes, if you do have enough healing in your hand, which he may have, the Hellfire can get a lot of work done, even though it hurts you in the short term. Especially if you get your Spellstone.
I wouldn't be too surprised if Jarla plays the coin right now just to try and get rid of the counterspell. Is coin Hellfire that bad here?
The problem with playing the coin now is if he's got another counterspell.
Okay.
So you like to do your counterspell proc on the same turn you're playing the spell.
Yep, that's the spell, and the spell that you actually want to play.
Right, so the second counterspell can't stop it.
That was not a smart play, never mind.
That's fine, I know you would just tear me up, I appreciate it. So, Fino, obviously, not the best hand. It looked all right for a while, but all this burn is stuff you want later. And something I'm always saying, if you're playing Arcane Intellect early, you're in trouble, no matter what the matchup.
It's such a big tempo loss, yeah. I mean, Life Drinker isn't the best tempo card either.
So one of the problems here for the Warlock is when you get the Void Lord and stop all the stuff from happening, you're in a good spot, but it doesn't end there because you don't have that much healing. Okay, Shroom Brewer in this is a little bit more, But you do have to kill the mage before he just like drops a Luneth and starts firing 6 or 9 or whatever at you per turn. The upside of having this Void Lord is that things like Cinderstorm are just not all going to go face.
Okay, that's nice rip from the Primordial Glyph. Sorry to interrupt you there, but Polymorph on the Void Lord. I was going to say, some of the aggro mages ran Spellbreaker for a little while to deal with Void Lords, but you know, Polymorph does a pretty good job too.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to say, like, people are probably wondering, why don't you play them now? Well, you've got to beat other decks as well as this, and you beat this a lot of the time anyway, so it doesn't help your win percentage enough.
Yep.
You just have to rip a Polymorph when you need one.
Whereas even Shaman on the other side, on the other hand, doesn't beat Warlock very often, therefore sort of has to run Hex to give it a fighting
Right,
chance.
and Paladin without Spellbreakers only has Tarim. And so that has to run the double Spellbreaker as well, and then it just becomes a fighting force.
Sorry, not Divine him, other one. Dark Pact on the Beetle, putting Jarla back up to 19 at the end of the turn. A Luneth ripped off the top this time for Fino.
Is a huge deal for Fino in terms of this game, but obviously this isn't the game. Obviously he needs to win it, because if he loses, he loses the tournament, but the match that he'll be thinking about and the fact that Jarla's playing quickly makes me think he's thinking about it too, is the Priest game coming up.
It's a shame that Fino wasn't able to play double Cinderstorm Arcane Missiles on an empty board there for 13 damage, but hey, probably deals with the Rin at the same time, and if this is all going face, he's not complaining either.
A decent amount.
Okay. He's going to deal with the minion. Not the be-all and end-all, but Fino going to get so much damage from this Luneth now.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard for Warlock to beat a Luneth, even with perfect draws, because the healing just runs out and the damage just keeps coming. The way you do tend to win, if you manage it as the Warlock, is to force the mage to fatigue to death. If you can somehow survive all of this stuff, the mage only has limited mana, even though it has unlimited damage.
Right.
So if you can somehow heal often enough, which Jarla's nowhere near doing, you can sometimes force the mage to, despite the fact they are drawing all this stuff, they just can't cast it all. And the way the mage deals with that is they keep back the Sorcerer's Apprentices, and then they just launch, pew, 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 and gets it over with that way.
That is the sound they make.
That is
I thought you didn't play with sounds, Lorinda. How did you know they go pew, pew, pew?
I just got told once, and now I understand it makes sense for it to be that sound, so I just mimic it, and I know that I'm doing an incredibly good impression.
This is not a great Primordial Glyph. The earlier one, getting the Polymorph, was fantastic, but
I don't think he's going to lose any sleep over this particular Primordial Glyph.
no, given that Pyroblast is ready to go next turn, is there a way that Jarla can heal out of range?
Doesn't look that way, and even if there is, he's not going to heal the next turn anyway. And Fino's going to grab this back to 2-1 in this top 16 here
Doomsday not going to do
at
it.
HCT Dreamhack Grand Prix.
Librarian looking for Dark Pact. There's still possible to play that with the Siphon Soul. Not going to get it. Now he probably Siphon Souls his own. Yeah, but Siphon Souls the minion just in case. Maybe. Fino somehow doesn't have a Fireball or Pyroblast in the hand.
My hand is 10 Arcane Intellects. Damn it.
Pretty unlikely, as Fino does, as you said, take his first win of the series. He is back in it with a fighting chance if he can get past the Priest and the Rogue. Priest is the hard one.
Priest is the one that matters here. The Rogue should be reasonably plain sailing.
Does Arcane Keysmith, which Fino is running 2 copies of, affect the Priest matchup at all? Potentially 2 extra explosive runes.
I mean, presumably he's playing it because he thinks it's more damage than some of the other options, but I feel like when you get down to, is Arcane Keysmith massively good or not, I don't think it's doing enough either way.
Jarla queuing the Quest Rogue first, getting Sonya and Shadowstep. Definitely a winning combination of cards.
That's interesting. Most people like to queue their favoured matchup quickly, but obviously it doesn't matter in this situation.
Tiebreakers don't matter at all. We're in single elimination.
Jarla wants to get his free chance out of the way, rather than having to face this when it's 2-2. He wants to face it now while he's still feeling optimistic. That's just a personal choice. So while he's still in a good mood because he knows the Priest is going to win, this helps you concentrate better than maybe if you're 2-2 and suddenly your 10% chance or whatever it is of winning this game is not high.
I agree.
You might as well be thinking as clearly as possible with the confidence behind you. It doesn't matter. It's just how he probably sees this.
So, okay, you're either going to play the Sap straight away. Next turn, are we thinking Sonya Shadowstep?
Might as well. The answer to everything you ask in this game is going to be might as well. If you see something that might win you this game of Hearthstone, you do it. And yeah, Sonya Shadow Step looks good.
Explosive Runes the following turn really messes that up, though.
You do need at some point to get your weapon equipped, but you do have a boar, so you're not in a hurry for that. So yeah, Sonya Shadow Step probably important. Like you say, Explosive Runes being able to do that. And oh, that is just Explosive Runes just ends this.
Yeah.
Fino does this a lot. Picks up the card he's definitely going to play. And he did it yesterday with, I forget what the card was, but he drew, I think it was a Frostbolt, and he drew another one and played the one he drew, having already given away that he was going to play this other card.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And I thought that was like
Bit of a mistake.
the tiniest of tiny mistakes.
Jarla was probably really hoping that was a counter spell there so that he could continue with his Sonya play, but unfortunately, he's had to just go ahead, drop Sonya, drop Elven Minstrel, take some damage.
Well, he does have the Scale Hide in hand, so if he can somehow get this quest done.
Oh, but now he's got to play around another Explosive Rune, which means Sonya cannot be the first card he plays next turn.
I mean, he doesn't. He just goes,
You don't think
got
he
it, I
plays that?
lose.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. It's a pretty high
Although if
chance to get it, though.
Yeah, there is, but I mean, he's losing this game a gigantic percentage of the time.
Yep.
You're not throwing much percentage away by just going, okay, Explosive Runes, bottom right.
Yep.
You have to play for what is the line of play that I ever win with, and it's you haven't got Explosive Runes. The fact Fino hasn't picked it instantly, and Fino, I've just been saying, often picks up the card instantly that he's going to play. To me, says that Jarla will know with a good degree of certainty, because Fino doesn't bluff very often,
Yeah.
that this isn't Explosive Runes. But I think he'd just go for it anyway. But is he dead?
And does he play Sonya followed by Boar or followed by Scalehide? It's a tricky decision. He only has to play 2 mana for the Scalehide once,
Interesting.
but that does make a lot of difference.
Interesting indeed. It's a lot of health, 4 health.
And it still completes the quest the following turn, so actually,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then you go Scale Hide, gain 5 the turn after.
having thought it through, I do think the Scalehide is better. Jarla is probably still weighing up the pros.
Yeah,
and
he's weighing
cons
about the
to-
secret. He's the Scale Hide thing is definitely correct.
Okay, this is fine too. Actually, doing it in that order is just safer.
Yeah, and he had the poor backup plan, so...
The risk of losing the Scalehide was kind of terrifying. But
Yeah, I mean, he loses the game either way, but he loses it slightly less hard. If the Scale Hide gets blown up, it's 1 extra health that he doesn't take. But yeah, this health gain is giving him what feels like a chance of winning the game, but in reality is probably just false hope.
another secret comes down, and Jarla doesn't have another spell in his hand, so that is just for the quest.
Yeah, and this is the difficult one. Like, you've got to play, you've got not enough spells to worry about unless he draws a spell, maybe.
Shadow Step preparation.
Yeah, if he can draw those cards, then he will play them, obviously. If he doesn't, he's...
That's a spell.
But that's just as bad, right? If that gets counted, you lose the game to
Missiles.
stuff on the board.
Loses
So-
8 arcane missiles, yep.
The thing is, this was a spell from Fino's deck this time, I think. And, I mean, Jarla knows the score here. He's just got to work out, is there a 0.1% chance that this is ever not counterspell? Oh, he's going to play Scale Hide first and find out, I guess.
Again, at the risk of losing all of his lifesteal that he's currently got in his
And he
hand.
still doesn't know what the other secret is, does he? Oh, yeah. Did he Shadow Step afterwards? He didn't, right? So he doesn't know what the other secret is either.
That's true.
I'm not sure I know what it is, to be perfectly honest.
It
It wasn't good, so I was zoned out.
I don't remember. It was Spellbender, Frozen Clone, or... Well, it's not Frozen Clone, obviously. So it was Spellbender or... Ice Barrier?
And now he does know it's counterspell because it came from the deck and it didn't blow up. So he's trying to get in a position where he can play the... Well, I don't know what he's trying to do. He's trying to get in a position where he doesn't die.
It was Barrier, yeah.
And now he's just got to hope that Fino doesn't have 1 damage or 2 damage from this mage deck.
Well, Arcane Missiles is not guaranteed lethal this turn.
Arcane Intellect must be
That is,
really
though.
close
That'll
to
do
it. Yeah.
That'll do it. Fino takes his second win of the series, tying it up, leaving only the Priest in between him and top 8 of the Dreamhack HCT Grand Prix here in Tour.
But he's going to get it done with Mage against the Priest, and the Priest has got a hero power that heals you. He's got cards that kill Mage cards, and it's got a load of healing spells. And the problem is, I was saying about the Warlock, the Mage has some sort of inevitability because the Warlock still struggles to defend itself unless it can somehow get to Gul'dan. And then, you know, in a healthy state and then gain 3 a turn. That's like, it's such a long shot. The Priest has that hero power built in because the damage you deal isn't that relevant.
Yep.
And so, Jarla in a great spot. But, you know, 2-2, anything can happen in theory here. It's just more likely to happen in Jarla's favour. So he's looking at keeping the shield and the cleric or keeping nothing. If he keeps shield and cleric, he gets off to a slightly slow start but draws cards rapidly.
Jarla's looking at the full mull.
But if he mulls everything, he gets the cards he's looking for in the 2 draws immediately. So it's really close. I can see why there's a trouble with this.
Meanwhile, Fino, he's done his mulligan. No Mana Worm in hand. That is a bit of a disaster.
But the other 2 cards, the Archaeologist, the Apprentice, and the Glyph, in fact, are going to allow him to have a very good start for a man who hasn't got a Mana Worm.
They're good, but they're not as good when they're not backing up the Mana Worm.
Sure, I agree. I mean, you always want that Mana Worm. That's pretty much APX Void's 2 million word essay on how to play Face Mage.
Oh, okay.
Now he's got a Mana Worm.
Okay, hold on a
Suddenly it is in the balance.
His hand just flipped over. Jarla's hand is bad. He's got the him, but we established that is not good in the early game.
Yeah.
Mana Worm on
But
one.
now he has got the way to challenge the Mana Worm.
Okay. He's got the Pyro coin him on 10-3. Oh, yeah. Oh, he could just coin out the Pyro.
Yeah,
I
he's
guess now.
gonna wait.
It loses so hard to Frostbolt. That's the issue.
Yep. Fino does have the exact start he needed. And if he can pick up maybe a Kirin Tor next turn, this could be insane. The Luneth's insane. Everything's gone nuts here.
Thunderstorm's not so bad either.
Yeah, Jarla forced to challenge the board with the Pyro without being able to blow anything up, and this is a bad news for Jarla.
Fino has to be considering Dustbreaker constantly, but I don't think he can really play around it anyway. He may decide to go Apprentice, Glyph, trade in the Mana Worm, or potentially get a Frostbolt from it.
I think Fino needs to picture where do I want to be when I Luneth, and where you want to be is still having the Sorcerer's Apprentice in hand, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
So that then when you get the Luneth, then you go Apprentice and start doing all the things that Apprentices do when they've got, you know, a Luneth in the board.
I like the look of Cinderstorm, but if it goes wrong, which it does!
Oh my goodness.
I just heard a scream somewhere in the studio from Cora.
Yeah, Cora,
may be
big
standing quite
Fino
nearby,
fan,
actually.
subscribes tier 1 and all that stuff, so she is rooting hard for Fino here.
Oh man, having to make that trade is awful. But Jarla has no way back. No way of getting rid of the Mana Worm just yet. Coining out Master Spell is not the answer here.
I mean, it's an answer, so is coining out Twilight Drake.
Drake is looking a little bit stronger.
Well, Drake kind of gets rid of all forthcoming minions as well. Master Spell has the benefit of cycling, and then you play the Drake, but you sort of lose the tempo with the Drake.
Yeah.
If the opponent drops another good minion like a Kirin Tor.
Drake is a 4/7 if played now, right? So,
You use the coin as well.
Oh, sorry, yeah, in that case, no, it's a 4/6.
It's plenty,
So
though,
a
right?
Fireball would deal with it.
That's fine, you've healed for 6.
Yep.
Anytime someone does that, it's fine, but you do take more damage. You take 3 from the Mana Worm in that instance. Or more, so... Difficult choices here for Jarla, and this could decide who goes to the top 8 this one turn. This is such an important turn, and he is going to go with the Drake and trust his Divine Him and his hero power to get him out of any problems. And this has forced Fino to play the Apprentice, which I feel he didn't really want to play yet, but he's got to do something.
Okay, Meteor isn't quite playable this turn. Snap Freeze is an option. He could Frostbolt and Snap Freeze this turn. But no, just freezing it on its own is fine. Meteor can deal with it next turn, I suppose.
So now the Dusky Boy is not good enough because there's no dragon to back it up. That was the downside of occupying the board this way. Jarla is going to use the Master Spell now, getting rid of 2 abilities in one go by waiting that extra turn.
Really on the back foot here, as Fino is able to control this board nicely, even now putting up Counterspell.
Yeah, Jarla doesn't know he's on the back foot because he's got rid of all the early threats, but the second a Luneth comes down, he's going to know he's got a lot more work to do. Do you ever go full Northshire?
You never go full Northshire, except maybe right now.
Except maybe right now. I think Acolyte Northshire is probably better for him.
Acolyte tests for the explosive rune. Jarla now knows it's not explosive rune. Both Northshire clerics are going down. It's not like Fino can take advantage of this.
Yeah, he wants to draw some cards, Jarla. You always want to draw cards, but particularly now to draw a spell that you can throw away so you can get your Shadow Visions into another Divine Hymn.
Is this a Meteor? I think this might be the Meteor.
I mean, he picked it for a reason. You might as well use it to clear a board.
Just 5 damage to the face.
Who needs a Luneth when you've got Meteor?
Jarla down to 10. Fino in with a real shot here. A Luneth can be played next turn. Jarla has Divine Hymn, but no way of really taking over this board. Yeah, he can Cabal Shadow Priest the Mana Worm. There's Duskbreaker, but no Dragon.
Activator.
Yeah, it's going to have to be the Cabal Shadow Priest.
The downside of playing the Shadow Priest, the upside is you get a decent board, and you may not think your opponent has a Luneth. You haven't really got a clue. The downside is you don't heal for 2 this turn. You do save 1 of that 2 by stealing the Mana Worm, so it costs you 1 health to steal it. And your opponent should be running out of minions. They should be going to the burn plan anytime soon. You're dead to Fireball Ping next turn if you do this. You take 3 from the Apprentice, and the Fireball Ping kills you off, so...
Goodness. And we haven't seen a Fireball from Fino yet this game.
Yeah, and...
So maybe Jarla has to go Shadow Vision's Divine Hymn.
But does that do anything? That just puts you in the same position again next turn.
It doesn't do anything.
Give or take.
You're right. It doesn't really...
For those who are wondering why we're saying, well, why do you Divine Hymn? You gain the 6 health, but then they hit you for 4 of it at least back again immediately, so you haven't really gained anything. This is great from Jarla. I don't think people necessarily will know how great this is because he has risked dying to make this play.
So Intellect into Fireball would not be lethal now. There's no ping available
Yeah, exactly.
if he does that. So goes with the Luneth instead.
And these are the plays that make great players, Dan, because these are the plays that when you can see the hands, it's easy. When you can't, you see all these fireballs coming at you.
Harrison, did you hear that? That was just a little bit of a feminine gasp.
Again, this is twice. Wow.
Harrison Jones is able to blow up the weapon, but can Jarla afford to? Again, we know this is Counterspell, so the only heal he can do is his hero power. He has no idea what Fino's drawn.
If he survives this 1 turn,
oh my goodness,
then he will win this game because he can start Divine Hymning and stuff.
Oh my goodness, Fino just not drawing the tools he needs to win the game.
He has got the Apprentice, though. He's going to let him draw a lot more cards and still have options. But that is not damage. And now Jarla's going to be able to probably stabilise. He's going to be able to get around this counterspell. I'm talking maybe too soon, though, with Pyroblast being picked up.
He's 1 mana short to play the Fireball this turn. So he'll have to Fireball next turn, Pyroblast the turn after. But Jarla has 2 Divine Hymns in his hand and Holy Fire, all ready to go.
Yeah, he can Mind Blast as well to get rid of the counterspell and get back into this. And this looked for all the world like Fino was going to overcome the odds, but Jarla picking up the Harrison right on the nick of time and now has waited. I mean, he could have played Shadow Visions and that Divine Hymn earlier. He took a massive chance by playing the Cabal Shadow Priest, correctly so, but it was very brave and it has put him in a position now where he shouldn't be able to die because a Luneth is what is needed here to overcome this 2 per turn healing. And there's no Luneth. And yeah, Jarla knows it. That was a sigh of relief, not a sigh of exhaustion or giving up. He knows he's got this.
And Fino, as he draws his Arcane Keysmith, which hasn't really done anything in this series whatsoever.
Absolutely gutting for Fino. Jarla did, of course, queue the Quest Rogue first to set up this 3-2 situation. He did have the chance of queuing this first if he wanted to win by more. Now, Fino needs to find a way to put more minions on board and stick them, and that's just not going to be easy because your burn spells turn into removal spells, and then bad things happen because you run out of burn. And the other thing here is Jarla, because he's presenting this big board, and that goes back to this Shadow Priest, because of being a 4/5, he's going to kill Fino pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like Fino's going to have many cards to draw and slowly get this Pyroblast into operation.
It just doesn't matter though. Like, Jarla is over the hurdle now. He's got another Holy Fire in his hand. It's unlikely that Fino ever draws the remainder of the damage he needs to win regardless. I guess if he were to get Holy Fire from the Mana Bind, that 0 mana, deal 5 again, the 5 that was just healed up, but it's just devastating for Fino.
It really is, and
to come so close in such a difficult matchup.
you know, Hunter Ace will be very close. Hunter Ace was 3 points clear. I don't know if he made top 32 or not, but if he made top 32, he'll get 4 points, and Fino will get 6. So Hunter Ace could still be 1 clear at the top if he made top 32. But Jarla, I don't know how far back he is, but it's quite a way, but 15 points for winning the tournament would make it into a big 3-horse race. And again, this is assuming that Jarla wins this, but I think it's a good assumption at this point.
I think it's a very good assumption at this point. Jarla down to 20 again, but
Fino's lower than that. Fino's down to 13. And Jarla still has healing and stuff in hand.
Not even healing his face. Look at the confidence there. Go
yeah.
the Harrison. Say, hey, Fino.
That actually saves more damage in the long run, because now that 3 damage either has to go into the Harrison to get rid of it. You know, which buys him a turn anyway. So healing face heals you for 2, but if they have to kill your Harrison, it heals you for 3.
We've had a phenomenal display from Team Fade to Karma.
And look at this, that fireball had to go into the Harrison. That's effectively healed for 6.
But it looks to me like Fade to Karma's run in this tournament is over. Both Ball Control and Glacier coming so close to making it into 2016.
Yeah, fantastic tournament for Fade to Karma, and this is the first season of the team event officially, and then we're going to see a lot of those guys over this next few tournaments. Don't forget, it's Austin in 2 weeks' time. It's Korea 2 weeks after that.
Yeah,
they're going to be, you know, Hearthstone is a long game. It's a series of series of series, and there's 3 tournaments full of that as well. If they can look at the long game, Fate to Karma have come out of this one very well, and they are going to be a big player in this season's team tournament.
And there is the final Mind Blast to end the game. Quick handshake from both players. Jarla takes it and is in a great position to win this entire tournament from this point.
Hey, you're looking at my bracket filled in.
I am. I'm looking at Lorinda's prediction. I see that he's put Jarla as the winner.
Shh.
I was actually trying to set you up to say that, but there we go.
I had, yeah.
Go ahead, tell me why.
Tell you why. I think that, I mean, I've got to go with Jarla because I predicted him for HCT. That was 2 weeks ago. So I'm not going to suddenly go, hey, Jarla suddenly became bad overnight. Fino's a fantastic player. I'm absolutely gutted for him, but I'm delighted for Jarla. One of the curses of being a caster. You can't have it both ways.
It was such a close series.
Have you recovered?
I mean,
we heard squeaks and all sorts coming from there.
No idea what that could have been. You must be hearing things. No, I mean, just the way that Jarla played at the end of that series was so clean. The Cabal Shadow Priest, instead of the Shadow Vision's Divine Him, when it essentially would have only netted him 2 health, was very, very good forethought, even though he was technically playing into a Fireball Ping lethal from Fino.
It was risky, but it potentially won him the game.
I think that is what did win him the game, because he managed to come back and take it a 3-2 victory for Jarla. And unfortunately, that means that Fino's run in this tournament has come to an end. And we're getting some other results, and I believe Chinoy's won his match.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I do believe that Casey lost his match. So Casey's run in this tournament has come to an end. Chinoy's will be moving on. If I find out any more results for you guys, I'll be sure to let you know. But coming up next, we are going to be bringing you the match between Maverick and Tomas. We got to see Maverick on stream earlier today, piloting a Control Warrior deck. So strap on in, guys. Dead Man's Hand is coming back to the stream, and this one could technically take a while, but it is going to be something different, and I'm sure it is going to be something to watch. So we're going to be right back with our second and final top 16 match of the day.